Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome back to another Premier Draft of Duskmourn House of Horror. Without further ado, let's get into the Pack 1 Pick 1, and we have a really sweet uncommon here that I've actually really enjoyed lately, especially in our sealed run we just did. This is the Fear of Isolation, 1 and a blue for a 2/3. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you have to return a permanent you control to its owner's hand, but that can actually be some upside with the new rooms mechanic. These are like split enchantments you can cast either half, and usually each time you play a half of the room, you're going to get like an enter the battlefield effect or an unlock effect, so you can kind of cash in all of the value off of both halves of a lot of these different rooms, and then just pick it up with the Fear of Isolation on a later turn. And because the Fear of Isolation costs only 2 mana, if you do this when you have like 5 lands out, you're picking up your room, immediately recasting it. It's a pretty beautiful combo, so I think it's the best of these uncommons. There is Coordinated Clobbering for like a decent removal spell, but these other uncommons are pretty filler outside of those two. So we'll start with the Fear of Isolation here. And pick 2, starting with a Fear of Isolation, there is a pretty clear direction to go if we grab a Gremlin Tamer, playing a blue-white deck, ideally with a lot of enchantments and rooms to create a lot of 1/1 gremlins off of this card. And the Fear of Isolation already synergizes really well with the Gremlin Tamer. Not only is it going to go well in a deck that's playing a lot of rooms, but it's also an enchantment creature itself to trigger that Eerie ability. So I think Gremlin Tamer is a very safe, very clear path we can get on right from the get-go. And there's not too much else in the pack. I do think Fear of Burning Alive is a pretty good 6-drop. You gotta get Delirium by the time you cast this, but if you have it, it's gonna shoot your opponent and one of their creatures for 4 damage when it hits the board, which is pretty nasty. Outside of that, there's a mediocre removal and counterspell here for interaction, and not too much else. So let's grab the Gremlin Tamer pretty easily. For pick number 3, we see a pretty good green-red signpost uncommon, but obviously we're on the complete other end of the color spectrum here in blue-white, so I think we have to just write that off and take the pretty solid room, Bottomless Pool, and Locker Room. This one, most of the value is just contained in the Bottomless Pool, just 1 mana, bounce a creature, that's just unsummon, but it's sorcery speed instead of instant speed, so not quite as good as you would want for just 1 mana, but it makes up for it by slapping on that 5 mana sink. If you got nothing else to do with your mana, you might be able to start drawing some cards off of the Locker Room. So looks like a solid card for a blue-white deck. And another pretty safe, pretty easy pick here. Pick 4, we have 2 main options. First off, Possessed Ghost is really just for a black-white Reanimator deck when you really need to be able to discard a big expensive creature from your hand. I wouldn't play it in any other archetype, so that leaves us with just Glimmerburst or Duskmourn's Domination. Glimmerburst has the upside of being able to trigger your Eerie cards at instant speed, which is pretty nice, and it's just a good value play. 4 mana, draw 2, get a 1/1. But then Duskmourn's Domination is the more impactful play, but it's a lot of mana, and you're only getting a weaker version of whatever you're stealing. So it's not super exciting. I think I'm just going to go Glimmerburst here. I do think Duskmourn's Domination is slightly better than it looks. We've been spoiled by really good mind control effects in the past. That one is still perfectly playable. It's just that I think we should prioritize the lower mana value cards when we're stuck between 2 options and we're playing a blue-white deck, because blue-white is basically always an aggressive tempo-oriented deck, whereas some of the other blue color pairs can be more controlling and make better use of a 6-drop like that. So pick 5, we can grab the Meat Locker Drowned Diner here. Pretty happy to just stick to blue. This is a nice way to slow the game down long enough with the Meat Locker to make it to the 5 mana to just draw a bunch of cards, get ahead in card advantage. So I like this quite a bit. Glimmerlight's also actually pretty good, especially in decks with Eerie cards like Gremlin Tamer. And it synergizes well with Fear of Isolation, so I wouldn't mind Glimmerlight. I think I'm still going to take Meat Locker over it, but those are both definitely good cards. Pick number 6. Well, if we took the Arabella, there'd now be a Midnight Mayhem. The problem with taking the Arabella, and why I didn't mention her at all, is that we are way deeper into blue than white, so Arabella would be basically a full pivot. Not a single card we've drafted so far would go into a red-white deck. So that's a little awkward, but that's fine. We're still seeing plenty of blue cards. Blue looks pretty open here. Getting another Glimmerburst. Pick 7, still more Glimmerbursts. Do I want a third Glimmerburst over just a fine filler 3-drop for this archetype? Just a 3 mana 3/3 lifelink, basically. It's certainly not an exciting card or something you want to prioritize super highly, but I don't think we can play like 4 copies of Glimmerburst or anything, and we're still in pack 1, so I don't really think we need to overload on these. I'll just grab a Cult Healer. We could also speculate on another color. The Innocuous Rat's a decent value play. A 1/1 and a Manifest Dread when it dies. Boiler Bilge's Ripper could be okay in blue-red, because we can like sack a room that isn't doing anything anymore to deal 2 to something. That might be fine. So, yeah, plenty of options there. Pick 8's pretty happy with Fear of Surveillance, just a 2-mana enchantment creature to trigger all of the Eerie stuff, and it sets up your draws every time it attacks, and it's a Vigilant attacker. Just a lot of nice little synergy with this card. Fear of Imposters would also be decent, as would maybe Twist Reality. I think my pick order is Fear of Surveillance #1, followed by Fear of Imposters and Twist Reality here. Pick 9, we get no options that we really want to make the cut. We get a filler creature that doesn't synergize with the deck, or a filler creature that doesn't synergize with the deck. Just random evasive threat, or random survival enabler. It's going to make one of your other creatures indestructible, so if you have any of the cards that care about surviving an attack, it'll help them get through. Guess I'll just take the 3-drop here for the curve, but not excited about that one. Pick 10, Twist Reality, Cold Healer, Hardened Escort. More filler for sure. Don't love counterspells in the blue-white archetype. Although bouncing your own enchantments later is kind of cute. Yeah, I mean, the other cards are so filler. We could try Get Out. Pick 11. Creepy Peepee. Pick 12. There's an Inside Out. Solid combat trick for red aggro. But nothing on color. So pack 2, pick 1. What do we have here? So we're currently on 0 removal spells. I think I would like to take those really highly. Do I take them so highly that I'm grabbing a Seized from Slumber here? 5 mana to destroy a creature. If you're targeting a tapped creature, it only costs 2 mana. But if you're the aggro deck trying to get a blocker out of the way, this is still going to be pretty expensive at 5. Blue-white needs removal a little less than the other archetypes because it has so many ways to stun things, with cards like Fear of Immobility and Meat Locker and stuff, bouncing with Bottomless Pool and Unnerving Grasp. So we can get blockers out of the way. The removal is really just going to be if our opponent resolves a bomb that we need to kill. So I don't think we need a ton of hard removal in this deck, since we'll have so much tap and stun and bounce and all that. To where I think I can just take the Unnerving Grasp as a better card on rate. But I do want to end up with some removal spells, so if we see premium removal, I will take it highly, and Trapped in the Screen is something I would call premium removal. That's going to remove the card for only 3 mana instead of 5. It's also going to exile it to stop any graveyard recursion, and it's an enchantment to trigger our Eerie cards like Gremlin Tamer. So I'll take Trapped in the Screen over the Meat Locker and the Fear of Imposters here. I think that should be fine. Pick 3, love me a Flood Pit's Drowner. This is yet another way to stun one of your opponent's creatures and get their blockers out of the way, keep pushing damage in. Card is really good. You ideally want to flash this in when your opponent moves to their combat step during their turn, because then you tap it and stop it from attacking that turn, then it doesn't untap next turn as well. So you're shutting it off for two attack cycles that way. But it does depend on what creature you're hitting with it. Sometimes if they have a good bomb, then you just shuffle it back into their deck with the tertiary ability on this card at the very bottom. Pick 4, yeah, we are such a tempo deck here. Another Unnerving Grasp to bounce a blocker out of the way. We're just going to curve out and bounce and tap every blocker they play and hope they die before anything good manages to stay on the board. Pick 5. I think Hardened Escort and the Megalodon are both pretty filler for this archetype, so I'm going to speculate a little here on the Smoky Lounge Misty Salon. If we end up with a bunch of rooms out of blue-white, we can play this as just the Misty Salon. It's pretty unlikely, but I'm basically never going to be excited about running another Hardened Escort or a Megalodon in this deck. So we'll take that, probably just started in the sideboard here. Pick 6. Alright, that Glimmer Seeker does give our Hardened Escort some good use, but we've got a lot, again, of tapping and stunning to get blockers out of the way, and that could let the Glimmer Seeker get in and survive, be tapped during our second main phase, and if so, we get a 1/1 Glimmer token and then start drawing cards off of this, so really good value if you manage to get this in for multiple swings. Another really cute thing you can do is you could Meat Locker your own Glimmer Seeker if you want to just get its survival triggers going. You can turn Meat Locker into a draw 2 off the Glimmer Seeker. I guess that depends if you have a Glimmer on board or not. You can turn into like make a 1/1 draw a card or draw 2, either way. Pick 7. So Skullcrab's really good in the right matchup where your opponent is somewhat of a self-mill deck. I wouldn't really run it in best of 1 unless I was a slower, more controlling deck. Then you can absolutely go for the mill win, but I don't think that we're going to be that way here in blue-white. I'm just going to grab a Cheerleader, a Jump Scare, or Glimmer Burst. Let's grab the Cheerleader. Well, I don't know. Maybe the Cheerleader's not actually that good here since they're not an enchantment creature or anything like that. But I do love the idea of, like, if this survives, a 2-mana 2/2 flyer is a really good deal. Pick 8, Stay Hidden, Stay Silent, and Meat Locker, Drowned Diner, 2 awesome options. I'm going to go for the Stay Hidden, Stay Silent. It's going to completely lock one of their creatures out of untapping. It's basically stunned forever. And then once you get to 6 mana, you can even get a 2/2 out of it. Shuffle their creature back in and Manifest Dread. Alright, and we haven't been taking Glimmer Bursts highly because they have just been flying around the pod, and we really don't need more than like 3. Meat Lockers are another card. I like it a lot, but they've just been flying around the pod, so we should get plenty. Fear of Imposters is fine. But the earlier you cast it, the less exciting it is, because they're probably still getting almost as much out of their spell when you're manifesting for them. They get to manifest a 2/2 onto the board, and then your 3/2 just runs into the 2/2 and trades with it anyway. They're just like 1-for-1s itself. I don't know. It's a card that has not been nearly as impressive as it looks. Most creatures that like hit the board and counter something end up playing really well, but I just don't think that one has ever been all that impactful for me or my opponents yet. Pack 3, pick 1. Take the premium signpost uncommon, the great synergy piece over the mythic rare. Meathook Massacre 2 Electric Boogaloo. This card is so sick, but it's also so hard to cast and definitely impossible for a blue-white deck. Really, really cool card, but our deck will be very happy to play another copy of Gremlin Tamer, so join the party. Pack 3, pick 2. I think Fear of Falling is a fantastic finisher. A 5-mana 4/4 flyer that shuts off one of their flying creatures every time it attacks. So it's preventing them from blocking it well unless they have specifically a reach creature. And even then you can reduce that creature's power until your next turn. So you can try to make it so they can't kill your Fear of Falling when they block it, and all they can do is chump. Really love this card as a finisher. However, Grand Entryway Elegant Rotunda is such a great synergy piece with double Gremlin Tamer that I think I'm going to take this over the Fear of Falling. I also think that blue's more open than white in this draft pod. Not that it's so open that we'll get Fear of Falling back, but we definitely won't get the Grand Entryway back. So I'm just going to grab this. This is 3 Eerie triggers. So you play the Grand Entryway, you get 2 enchantments on board immediately, and then you unlock the Rotunda. That's another Eerie trigger. So pretty great stuff. All right, and we only really wanted removal for our opponents like big, scary, good ability threats in the late game. So Exercise looks like fine removal for the stuff that we don't want to just stun, something we want to just get rid of forever. So if they do resolve a big spooky threat, I'll take that over a Skullcrab or a Cheerleader or a Clam. Ooh, baby, Entity Tracker. We're already playing a lot of cards to help with Eerie, and now our Grand Entryway just got even better. This is a 3-mana 2/3 flash, and whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, or you fully unlock a room, you draw a card, and that's not even once per turn. So if I flash this in during my opponent's end step, untap, cast a Grand Entryway, boom, I draw 2 cards immediately. Then I could even unlock the Elegant Rotunda and draw a 3rd card if I have 5 mana up that turn. Ridiculous. Everything's clumping up in one pack, though. Another Fear of Falling and another Grand Entryway. That pack, if I could just take that whole pack and then draft nothing else for the rest of the draft, I absolutely would, but that's not something you can do. Our deck would be so good if we could just take that whole thing and just be like, okay, I don't need anything from the other packs because these cards are all so much weaker for our deck than the like 4+ good options in the pack that we just passed. So a little sad about that, but hey. Well, if we were a slower deck, we could have had like 5 Skull Crabs and fully gone for the mill, which would have been pretty cute, but I think we're in a really good spot here in the aggressive direction. And again, blue being wide open, infinite copies of Fear of Falling just flying around this last pack. So that makes me feel pretty good about passing them because I still get 1, and I don't really want too many copies. I don't want too many 5-mana cards in this deck, and I already have double Drown Diner to work towards in a locker room potentially. So I don't mind only having like 1 in the deck. Pick 7. Yeah, 3-mana 2/2 flyer. Leaves behind a poopy equipment. Definitely not a Reanimator deck, and I'm not that excited about the 2-mana 3/3. Yeah, it's going to attack a decent bit of the time in our deck, but the times when it doesn't, it's such a blank. Oops, I accidentally took Derelict Attic. Technically, I should have taken the Stocked Researcher, but I would not be surprised if we just end up cutting the first copy even, let alone the second. Grab a 4-drop for the curve. I don't think I'm going to have room for combat tricks like Jump Scare with the amount of rooms and stuff we're going to be playing here. We've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 non-creature spells, all of which I like better. Even the Glimmer Bursts, because they only make a 1/1, are kind of more non-creatures than creatures. So, kind of a lot of non-creatures here. Pick 9. Just an Apparition that I won't be playing. Pick 10, we did not wheel the Fear of Falling, but that is fine because we got 1 copy. We can take a Vanish from Sight. This is a fine tempo way to get a big blocker out of the way. Your opponent even skips their next draw step to redraw it and recast it. It's almost like a Time Walk if they just draw whatever you bounced and replay it. It's pretty gross. And I will absolutely play the Underwater Tunnel Slimy Aquarium. I'm a little sad that this was like the dream crab pod. We could have had like 5 crabs. But it's pretty hard to foresee that. I think on average you see like 2 copies of every common in the set. So 5 in the 1 pod and like none of them getting taken is wild. Alright. Yeah, let's make just a few cuts here. We're at 49 cards. This is a 4-mana creature. This is a 2-mana creature. 3-mana stun, 1-mana bounce, 1-mana trick. Or Oracle Text Manifest for Manifest Dread. Now all of our Manifest creatures are up top. The problem is that Stay Hidden, Stay Silent also technically says Manifest Dread on it, so this I'm not counting towards my creature count. I'll put it way over here. But this is the creature curve. I could count the entryway. It is a 2-drop 1/1, or the Glimmer Bursts is 4-drop 1/1s. But I think this is realistically, these are cards that their primary benefit is playing to the board and getting power and toughness out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. We can definitely cut a few creatures here. And we've got 2 Gremlin Tamers, incredible, never getting cut. Flood Pits Drowner, incredible, never getting cut. Fear of Isolation, incredible, never getting cut, but I want to treat it as more of a 4-mana card. We don't really want to play this until a turn where I play it, pick up an entryway, and replay the entryway. Or play it, pick up a bottomless pool, replay the bottomless pool, or a meat locker. So I guess 5 mana realistically. By the time we have 5 mana, we can definitely play this and pick something up, because then it could replay a meat locker, an entryway, an elegant rotunda, a bottomless pool, basically anything. So we'll be really safe with that and say 5 mana creature. So 1, 2, 3, Peeper is mana, which is okay. I think that's a little better than Stock Researcher, but the 1 toughness is still a really hard sell. The Fear of Surveillance, still great for the Eerie triggers, and the Cheerleaders, while they are potentially pretty good if they've survived, just don't hit any synergies for the deck. And I think we care a lot about Eerie with 2 copies of Gremlin Tamer and that incredible rare, the Entity Tracker, to draw a bunch of cards. So we want to keep our enchantment count just monumentally high. So cutting mostly non-enchantment creatures. And let me go ahead and say Oracle Token. So I put the entryway and the Glimmer Bursts into the creature count here. So this is 5 2-drop plays that we're going to play on turn 2. Not terrible, but I wouldn't mind putting 1 or 2 of these cards back in. But these are the potential cuts for now. At 3 mana, Cult Healer is a lifelinker most of the time, but it isn't going to help us play any more enchantments for our more important Eerie triggers like Tamer and Tracker. So that's a potential cut. Glimmer Seeker is, though, because Glimmer Seeker spits out an enchantment token, and then it draws cards, which is just absurd. Hardened Escort, very similar, just a flesh and blood creature, not an enchantment, not exciting. Entity Tracker, that's our big bomb. Card Draw Engine. Erratic Apparition, again, it's got a fine Eerie trigger, but it's not helping the more important Eerie cards do their thing, which isn't very exciting. And then Unnerving Grasp is just such a good rate for an aggressive tempo-y deck that will run it even though it doesn't directly synergize with our enchantment stuff. At 4 mana, we've got Friendly Ghost. Solid rate, no synergy though. We'd probably rather just run the Glimmer Bursts and the Slimy Aquarium here, because we have plenty of 4-drops without the Friendly Ghost. Sorry, Casper. And we'll play both the 5-drop creatures. That's going to be it for the creature cuts here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Probably cut a Glimmer Burst. It's 14, so I want to put at least 3 of these back in, because I don't really want to count Glimmer Bursts as 1-for-1s for creatures. So if I have all of these cards are like 14 and I put 3 back, that's 17 that I'm putting in the creature count total, but it's more like 15 to 17 depending on how highly you count a 4-mana 1/1 as a creature, which is not very highly. So we could even play like 18 or 19 here if we want to just completely declassify Glimmer Bursts as creatures. So what do we want to do? I mean, with all the stunning and the bouncing with the Meat Lockers, the Bottomless Pool, the Unnerving Grasps, the Flood Pits Drowner, I think I'm going just real low curve with it. I'm just going to put some 2s and 3s back in. That feels like where we want to be. So if I am just putting 2s and 3s back in, I feel like the curve is going to be low enough that Creeping Peeper is just not going to be that crazy as mana ramp in the first place, and obviously the 1 toughness is really bad. I think I just want to play the more aggressive creatures. We play the Cheerleaders at 2 mana. And then like the Cult Healer at 3. And that's good. Those are the 3 cards that go back in, just all the good aggro cards. Seems fine to me. Then still cut 3 more cards. So probably the Get Out. Again, hard to hold up counter spells without a lot of instant speed stuff to do. We have 2 copies of Glimmer Burst and an Entity Tracker for instant speed things to do, but outside of that, being an aggressive tempo-oriented deck, we need to be playing to the board every turn. And on turns when we're not casting creatures, it's probably better for us to be casting something like a Meat Locker and just stunning their blocker and getting more damage in than it is to just be holding up a counter spell. So this is really narrow for this deck because of the lack of instant speed spells and the amount of times we want to play to the board, get more power toughness out. 2 more cards to cut. It's kind of hard to find the cards to cut here because all of our non-creatures are so good. I guess Jump Scare and Vanish from Sight are the only 2 that don't like directly hit synergies. Okay, I guess Exercise also, but that's just solid removal. Every deck is going to have some target for this. As you can see from our deck, there's loads of enchantments in the format, but there's also artifacts for the Delirium decks, as well as just big creatures, because you can reanimate some big stuff in like black-white, and green just in general has creatures with power 4 or greater, so this basically always has some kind of target. So it does play pretty well, even though it has no synergy. Yeah, I guess these three are the technically no synergy cards. They're all just good for the deck on rate. Everything else is an enchantment and also removal or stun or bounce. So yeah, everything else is just perfect for this deck. These are just pretty good. So cut one or two of the pretty good cards. So I could cut one of these in a land or two of these. We've got two 5-drop Drowned Diners to get to. I've got a 5-mana Locker Room I can mana sink into. I think I have enough rooms to just dump a bunch of extra mana into that I can go for a full 17 lander here, even with a pretty aggressive curve like this. I also have a couple ways to slightly prevent mana flood. We've got the Surveil 2 from the Underwater Tunnel. We've got the Surveilling from the Fear of Surveillance. And we have the discarding an extra land to the Drowned Diners. So let's ditch. I guess go lower curve here, ditch the Vanish from sight. I guess that's something I could do. I could like ditch a 4-drop cut a land. Even though I do have the big mana sinks later. That would keep the curve a little lower. Wouldn't mind that. I kind of like the idea of Jump Scare in a deck that has this many 2-mana creatures. So we can just like run them in there. And whatever they block with, just boop Jump Scare. I'll just trade 1 mana into killing our opponent's 2-drop so that the curve is turn 2, play a 2-drop creature, turn 3, attack into their 2 or 3 mana creature, then spend 1 mana to Jump Scare and win that fight, and the other 2 mana to play another 2-drop. So any hand where we have 2 2-drops and a Jump Scare, it'll play pretty well. Yeah, I like the idea of that curve. Just keeping up with the tempo, keeping real quick here. We go for the Jump Scare, the Exercise, and drop the Vanish. And a land. 50-50 split look right here. 11 white cards, 15 blue. We're definitely leaning blue, but how many double white or double blue cards do we have? 1 double blue card in the deck? Well, 3. 2 Drowned Diners. At an even number of lands, it's pretty awkward. It means that we'd have to run 2 more islands than plains, and I don't think our colors are that lopsided that we want to run 2 more islands than plains and go for like a 7-9 split. I would rather be on 50-50 than 7-9 here, because we still have really important cheap white spells. We want to have that white mana turn 2 every time. Yeah, we'll go 50-50 split on it, and we will call it a deck here. Hop into the gameplay and see how it does. Alright, here we are on the play. We don't have any of our 2-drops, it's just a chunk of 3-mana stuff, but all that 3-mana stuff is very good. We have a Glimmer Seeker with 2 bounce spells and a combat trick to try to make sure that it can get in. So that's going to be the plan. Start things off here. Playing against a green-red deck. A very cool dual land. Classic, we draw our 2-drop on turn 3, when we're now just going to have to play it off curve randomly. Ooh, and here's the Scorching Dragonfire. No. Some other instant in their hand. Maybe one of the land cyclers, but they already have a lot of lands in their hand. Or they do have the Scorching Dragonfire and they're opting to use something else or wait on it here. I wish this were another white source so I could Jump Scare and still play the Cult Healer. And we're definitely leaving the Jump Scare up until this triggers. But if they let me get the post-combat trigger, then I'll go ahead and tap out of the white for a Cult Healer or something. Because I figure if they're going to kill it, they should do it before the survival trigger. And it's too late now. We got the survival value out of it, even if they kill it. Just didn't get to draw the extra cards. Here's a Cult Healer. All right. I don't know what's in their hands here. It still feels like the most realistic thing would be land cyclers. It's the only thing I could think of that would be like castable right now and they wouldn't want to be doing it. Because if it was removal, I'm pretty sure Glimmerseeker is more than a good enough target. So there's Conductive Machete. Unnerving Grasp is a little awkward against manifested cards. We're still absolutely going to do it here to get in with everybody. But the issue is if they did hit like an instant or sorcery spell, now they can actually use it instead of it being a complete blank. But it's good against creatures. It's good against creatures for sure. And it was a creature they manifested. So that's wonderful. Alright, I don't think that there's a lot of board wipes in this format in red. There's Pyroclasm for 2 damage to everybody. I guess I could like not play the cheerleader to play around that. I don't think there's like a big rare one. There's a mythic rare. There's a mythic rare where you can deal X damage to X targets, but it costs 3 mana and X. So right now they could do 2 damage to 2 targets, so that wouldn't help them. Yeah, I don't think I should just be sandbagging the cheerleader here to play around a board wipe from a green-red deck. Alright, 3/4 Rootwise Survivor. 10 life, 3, 6, this is way more than 10. We just grasp it or meat locker it or kill it or whatever I want to do, I'll just grasp it. Firmly grasp it, and that is lethal. That is game. Start things off 1-0. Our opponent just had a really rough start. They didn't play any spells till turn 4. They played a 4-drop and then a 5-drop, and our deck is just going to eat up those matchups because we have so many ways. We could just stun their 4-drop, stun their 5-drop and win, bounce their 4-drop, bounce their 5-drop. That is what our deck is like designed to defeat. Alright, here we are for game number 2. This time we have a curve, but no enchantments for the Eerie cards. We are on the draw here, so we could try to find some. Might be starting with the Drowner. I guess it depends if they play a creature here. Yeah, if they don't play a creature, I guess I'm just playing a blank Gremlin Tamer. 2 mana, 2/2, no abilities. I could bank on them playing a 3-drop creature by just holding the Drowner, but now Gremlin Tamer is literally blank. Okay. Fear of Isolation is actually really good tempo for us, because they skip a land drop and now we'll make them do it again later. Ooh, that's gross. So now it feels like we're on the play instead of them. Overlord of the Flood Pits is an incredibly good card, but our deck is also incredibly good against it. By the time that it is ready to go, we can just stun it or bounce it and make them do it all over again, maybe. Let's flash in an Entity Tracker, then play Fear of Falling next turn. That feels best. Okay, so these remove at the end step. That's interesting. So when the last counter removes, it's not going to instantly attack because it's going to be our turn, but it is going to be able to instantly block. That is really interesting, but I'm just going to be able to drown it and shuffle it back in if I need to. I can also just shut off its abilities with Fear of Falling if they don't manage to kill this. Alright, got the second white source. That is valuable with 2 white drops in the hand. Alright, Fear of Falling is trapped in the screen. Oh, the Entity Tracker is. That's actually good for me. I mean, they don't know what's in my hand here, but with no other enchantments in hand, Fear of Falling is the better card for us, so we're happy with that outcome. Unless they're killing both here. They have like the exercise to exile the Fear of Falling, maybe? Oh, maybe not. Okay. I can cast my whole hand now, so that's the play. Yep, and there's no reason to attack with the 2/2. It's just going to get blocked by the 0/5. I could get wildly aggressive here and Flood Pit's Drowner the Clammy Prowler, but that would be pretty bad. Ew, Seize from Slumber. Yep, that's pretty good there. Okay, so we want to put a stop in their end step, so after the counter's removed, I can flood Pit's Drowner. Oh, that's my end step. Oops, there we go. There's their end step. They have incredible interaction in their deck. Jesus, Sheltered by Ghosts is a phenomenal card. Give your thing plus and plus 0, lifelink, and ward 2, and exile a card on board. One of the best uncommons in the format, for sure. The downside is then your opponent gets to 2 for 1 you back, right? They're going to kill the creature and blow up the Sheltered by Ghosts, get their thing back, but still such an absurd rate. The ward 2 really gets around that downside by making it really hard to target the creature. Okay, so we want to resolve that and then stun that. Cool. Bottomless Pool. That is a wonderful draw. Wow. Put the Prowler back in their hand, which is going to get rid of the Sheltered thing and give me back my Gremlin Tamer. Ooh, bounce is good against the Sheltered by Ghosts. Oh, sorry, Gremlin Tamer number 2. And I have to use this while their thing is stunned, right? Yeah, while it has a stun counter on it. They're at 12. It is pretty bold to not do this. But the extra 2 power on board could be the difference between killing them in like 2 swings or not. Enters or attacks, draw 2, discard a card. I guess the odds of them getting into a position where they can attack again are pretty low. I'm gonna let them keep it so I can keep the Drowner and keep this wide board state to hit harder. Also makes it easier to draw a card off of the locker room and try to find the cards we need to close out the game off of a little bit of extra card draw. Meat Locker the Cheerleader. And Fear of Isolation, probably the Meat Locker. Oh no, they picked up a land again. Oh, to double 2-drop? That's disgusting. Alright. Pretty freaking good, I would say. It's our own Fear of Isolation so that we can bottomless pool the Overlord in a second. I could also pick up my Gremlin Tamer. That's somewhat interesting. Could pick up my Flood Pit's Drowner. Actually, a lot of options. The problem is I have 7 mana here, and I really want to bust open the locker room. What about Fear of Isolation? No, I can't Fear of Isolation Gremlin Tamer and unlock the locker room and get 2 gremlins because I'd have to recast the Tamer. Unlock the locker room. Attack with everybody, lose the first Gremlin Tamer to draw a card. Fear of Isolation, back the bottomless pool. Bounce the Overlord would be a mana-efficient line. I don't know if it's worth the locker room shenanigans here, though. When I can set up for a better long game instead. By just like killing the Overlord with Flood Pit's Drowner or getting my other Gremlin Tamer back here. They've got a Drowned Diner to unlock next turn. This is hard. I think I'm killing the Overlord. Do I care if they attack with the Overlord here at 12? If they attack with the Overlord, then I get to stun a blocker. Maybe I unlock the locker room as well, get another 1/1. I actually think I do. They can draw some cards here if they want to have less blockers up. Not a good sign that they are having trouble choosing what to discard, because that means those are some really good cards. They can't just be like, ditch the second land. Are there 0 lands in hand here? Still? Jesus. Alright. Yeah, those are really good cards then. Oh no, they just needed the land for a 2-drop or something. Okay, that's a good draw. They are at 12. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 attackers. I can stun the Overlord and still draw a card here off of the bottomless, or the locker room. Oh, there's the trapped in the screen. Now I don't want to manifest my freaking 3/3. Or I mill that. I guess I'm not manifesting the 3/3 yet. Oh, it's so mana efficient though. Exactly 6 mana, make a 3/3 and play a Drowner. Nah, we go big. Well, wait, no, what I can do, click done, and go to combat, lose my Gremlin Tamer, which is sad, but now I just guaranteed draw that thing, and then manifest. Oh wait, I played this so wrong. I could have actually stunned something else here because I'm gonna top deck this. Trapped in the screen. I could stun something else, draw the trapped in the screen, also kill the Overlord. So I could have stunned the 4/4 and only lost 1 creature here, and that would have been way better. But I used up my clocks earlier, so I'm having trouble navigating the new set in time. That was a very sloppy turn. That could have been done much better. A Slimy Aquarium is my other card right now. Hello there, you are a beautiful draw. Beautiful draw. I don't think I actually should have made the 1/1 here. Now the Flyers are really just going for it. And we guaranteed draw a card off one of the Flyers. Let them kill the Drowner to hit 2 for 2 more damage. I honestly don't mind that. Especially because if they block the Drowner, I can just kill the Keybearer, and then it's like they didn't even kill it. We just 1-for-1 traded there. I could even redraw it. Maybe it shuffles right back on top? Nah. Alright. Fair enough. Fair enough. They are dead on board right now. We hit for 3 in the sky and 1 on the ground. They might have been dead this turn if I played last turn out correctly. And actually stunned something else and then exiled the Overlord. Probably not, but they'd be closer to dead for sure. Alright, that's still... Well, no, it's not still done on board. It's dead to us drawing basically anything, and jump scare counts as basically anything. Get in there, Gremlin. Yeah! 2-0. Heading into game 3. Huge work from the locker room, honestly. We drew like 3 cards off of that, at least, by the end. While also just having the 1-mana bounce a creature early game. And the 1-mana bounce a creature was massive this game because it got rid of their Sheltered by Ghosts, which was ridiculous. Bounce is really good against Sheltered by Ghosts. We actually have a pretty good matchup against that card with 3 bounce spells in this deck. The cards that manifest dread and then bounce something, and the room that bounces something. So that's probably actually Sheltered by Ghosts' worst matchup is blue decks, because bouncing this card is rough, or bouncing the creature it's attached to. We still have to pay the ward cost, but it doesn't matter as much. All right. And there's our victory heading into game number 3. All right, here we are for game 3. We are on the draw. Fear of Surveillance and Acrobatic Cheerleader for multiple turn 2 options. Then Trapped in the Screen to clear out a blocker if we need to. I need to go from there. Let's start with Fear of Surveillance. I'm just going to trade into the piggy bank and give them a treasure. So they're going to get some good value here. I think I'd rather trade that off than the Cheerleader as a potential flyer. Fanatic of the Harrowing. Everybody discards a card. So if they have Reanimator spells, it's going to be pretty good. Honestly, Fear of Isolation is pretty bad in this hand right now. We only want like 1 finisher, and Fear of Falling is the more consistent one. We want to keep the Cheerleader to have something to play next turn. And the Glimmer Burst to guarantee land 5. Yeah, sad day for Fear of Isolation. Resurrected Cultist. Okay, Stay Hidden, Stay Silent is actually pretty bad against Rakdos because they're a sacrifice deck. Do I want to just Glimmer Burst and block the Cultist, or do I want to exile it so I can get the Cheerleader to jump into the sky? I don't think I want a Cheerleader in the sky that badly. I'm going to be mana efficient and draw my 2 cards and help guarantee land 5 next turn. And this could also give us a really good trade into the Cultist. Beautiful. Now they can bring that back once they have Delirium, so if they have 4 or more card types in grave, instant, sorcery, creature, artifact, land, all that stuff. But that'll deal with it for a while. I am super happy to trade my 2-2 into a 3-2, and if they don't trade, then I've got flying, and that I'm happy with too. So here's Fear of Falling now. Big flying finisher has hit the board. Innocuous Rat. Goes well with the Egotist. They can sack it, drain me for life, and manifest dread. They can also sack it to Final Vengeance. Incredible card in the Rakdos sacrifice decks. They get their sack value and clear out my best threat. Plus they exile it as well. That's filthy. Here's Unnerving Grasp. Egotist can't sack itself, can it? No. So maybe a Stay Hidden on the Egotist wouldn't be terrible. And then we can Grasp the Fanatic since it costs 4 mana to recast it. And if they do, we each discard a card. I guess they discard a card after they discard one, though. Yeah. It's definitely Stay Hidden and a 3-drop. Maybe just play a 3-3, honestly, against 2 2-2s. Just hope a 3/3 is a roadblock for us here. How much do I hope? Do I poke them or not? I don't have to trade a 2/2 flyer into a 2/2, but I'm kind of at that point already. I'm just going to hold it back. 10 life here. And if I can play an enchantment like every turn from now on... Oh, never mind. That one might be bigger than a 2/2, so I'll trade with that one. It is not. I was going to say, if I can play an enchantment every turn from now on, then I can get some good lifelink to get back in this. But then they had the Dragonfire too. Two is big enough to trade with this thing, honestly. Let's just get the 2/2. Well, that's a bummer. Even if I put the planes out, this is just going to my grave anyway, so I mean, I just have to take the trade, right? Can't go to 6 against Rakdos, can I? Guess I can go to 6, play an enchantment, draw a card next turn. Oh, God. Will I play an enchantment, draw a card, and have a 2/3 blocker up to block the Fanatic, take 3 from Piggy Bank? I'm scarified. It might be better to Unnerving Grasp here. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I was just instinctually like, I want to draw the card immediately, right? No. Because this way, I have 2 blockers against 2 attackers. So I should have just kept the tracker face down. And they wouldn't have known that it was a 2/3 and they wouldn't attack in here. Or they would attack in here and I could have eaten the 2/2 basically for free. Okay, hello Gremlin Tamer. Oh, we're so back. We're so back, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my god, we are in it. Woo! What are you gonna do about that, Rakdos? Still playing lands because I need 8 mana to do all that in 1 turn. And I likely want to do all that in 1 turn. And there's land 8. We do it all. Let's go. Yeah, there's the concession. They are done. They are over it. And that is 3-0. Another sloppy game there. Another sloppy game. We could have flipped up the tracker at instant speed. That would have probably gotten a kill on the Fanatic of the Harrowing, because with us sitting at 6 life there, they probably would have attacked into a face down, into 2 face down 2/2s with a 2/2 and a 3/2 there. And then, surprise, one of them is a 2/3, and we eat the 2/2 for free. So that could have gone even more in our favor. I think that was the only really sloppy line this time, though. I think last game was even sloppier. There was like the turn against the blue-white deck that went sloppy was an incredibly sloppy turn, but this was just like one specific. The timing on the flip-up was wrong. Not the sloppiest thing in the universe, but definitely worse. All right, yeah. Some stuff to learn for future games for sure. But still undefeated heading into game number 4. All right, game 4 on the draw. Very, very good hand. Fear of Surveillance to set up our draws and try to surveil into lands. And then we have the Grand Entryway, Elegant Rotunda, and we can pick it up with the Fear of Isolation. We have a Fear of Falling as our finisher, and we have a removal spell if we need it. Curve out's probably going to be something like this. Play all this first. Okay. Here we go. We did hit a land immediately, which is good. I'm trying to get up to 5 mana. The Sorcery Speed, Growing Dread. I guess there's no reason to instant speed it anyway. Flood Pit's Drowner to add to the curve. Interesting. Probably stronger later. Stunning bigger creatures, so we'll still start with Fear of Surveillance. No blocks. Curve into a Cult Healer here, or I can play off curve to get the grand entryway down for the Fear of Isolation later. Let's see if I surveil into a land. If I have a land on top, I can play Flood Pit's Drowner and grand entryway next turn, and that will be very good. Okay, I don't have a land on top, and I think I'm not going to have a land on top because I don't think I'm putting that in grave. We have a lot of castable spells right now, even if we can only play one per turn with this amount of mana. Yeah, we keep that. However, I kind of think I still... I'm not playing the grand entryway just because now I can have a Gremlin Tamer double Eerie with it later. Murder my Cult Healer, you got it. That is not a Gremlin Tamer. Could Fear of Isolation double spell. Wouldn't be triggering the Eerie though. But that can get me some good tempo here while I'm stuck on mana. I still have exclusively enchantments after doing that. Right, Fear of Isolation, pick up an island, play the Flood Pit's Drowner to stun the 4/3. Pretty big tempo swing, and I really want to make sure I get land 4 off of the Fear of Surveillance attack. So I think I'm going to do that over the Gremlin Tamer play. Make up for skipping a land here. Regain a little bit of tempo. With a double spell turn. Yeah. Oh. It's pretty good against manifested cards. Wow, yeah, I'm just actively choosing to never draw land. It's kind of embarrassing. My deck's too good. Stop showing me good spells. I'm never going to choose lands. If Cult Healer were on top instead of in my hand, I would have milled him. Oh, Slam, take that damage. I can win this race every day. Fear of Lost Teeth. That's annoying for my Flood Pit's Drowner. Yeah, that's kind of going to kill my Drowner no matter what. They can block the Fear of Surveillance and shoot the Drowner. I guess they stop the same amount of damage either way. Might as well just block the Drowner straight up. Do I have to just Elegant Rotunda here? That feels wrong, but that's where I'm at. I guess they can still kill it, but now they have to fully load onto it here. Like block plus shoot. Maybe I just don't attack with it then. I've still got a bunch of blockers up because I'm attacking with the Vigilant 3/3. Yeah, no, I just don't attack with it, and then I can block the 4/3 with it. That's an insta-mill. We found our first Surveil. Let's go. That's actually going in the grave. Murder. Murder my fears. Thank you, opponent. I needed that. Well, it's better not flip up. Sick. It did not flip up. It was another Growing Dread. They're out of cards? They are out of cards. Okay, I don't really want to bounce their 2/2 because they could in these Manifest Dread kind of decks, they end up running a lot of Growing Dread style cards that are like non-creature spells that manifest Dread. So they actually quite often can end up flipping something like a Growing Dread face down or a Machete face down, to where if I bounce and then they cast it, it's actually worse for me than the 2/2. So I awkwardly want to like fully exile it here, and then I'm just dealing with a 1/1 in whatever they top deck. Yep, I am blowing my hard removal early here, but I can bounce the heck out of whatever else they're going to play here. Okay, it was just an innocuous rat, so bounce would have played fine. 3/2 Fear of Lost Teeth. Top deck a Nashi. Top deck the bomb rare. That's fine, because I will bounce it for the rest of history, as I said. I want to bounce it with the non-enchantment bounce right now, because I want to get max Gremlin Tamer value later, and I don't have double blue to play Tamer plus Bottomless Pool. Oh, man. Guess I'm not attacking. I'd rather not get my life total halved. Come on, island. I beggeth. Island. No! Ah. I cannot flip up my 2/3 and bounce the Nashi. Oh man, so I have to like use the entryway and not draw a card off of it with the tracker or anything either. Also, when it's a 4/3 menace, I can also just set up blocks for it. Play Tamer and entryway and block it with 2 1/1s. What if I just double chump it then? Playing this out so greedy, but y'all know me by now. I am Wario. Alright, I get 3 1/1s, so I'm so fine. I forgot how busted Grand Entryway is with Gremlin Tamer. Yeah, this is actually just wonderful. Unless they got the instant speed removal or combat trick here. The fact that we get 3 1/1s here, I think that's just genuinely our best line and not even greedy at that point. To just play the Tamer and unlock the entryway. Yeah, that is so good. Now I can flip up the face down and hold up a jump scare, I guess. Opponent at 8 here. How do I not randomly die? I'm at 5. I would die to a random flash creature. That's about it. I guess if I want to not randomly die to a flash creature, I just play the cheerleader and hold up a jump scare to protect it a little bit. It's probably the play. Ooh. It's kind of a random flash creature, but it's a 1/1, so we're fine. Well, no, if they manifest like a big trampler or something, they could get me. Maybe I have to bounce the manifest. But then if they manifest a spell, it's worse if I bounce it. Yeah. It's so RNG dependent here. Like, I could play the cheerleader and not bounce anything, and then die because this flips into like a 7/6. Or I could play the cheerleader and bounce that and then die because I bounced like a good non-creature spell. I don't know. It feels safest to bounce this and hold up jump scare as well. Just gonna bounce it. It's a 7/6 trample, it is summoning sick. Okay, it was actually a creature. It wasn't something that would have killed me, but that was not the worst case scenario of like giving them another machete or something. Could you imagine I just like bounce their Meat Hook Massacre? Then they play the swamp. That's the 4 black mana. Sewer, swamp, swamp, swamp. That would be such a blowout. Although I don't know that they have enough life to actually use a Meat Hook Massacre well enough. I mean, they're dead, right? Block 1, take 5, and jump scare something that gets through. It's very slightly bold, but it's not even that ballsy, I think. Oh, they do have an instant in hand. That's not good. Yeah, if it's instant speed removal, they hit us for 4, we're not dead. Okay, this was a little risky. I probably should have held a 1/1 back. Because I would still be hitting for lethal, right? 6 damage exactly. Yeah, I should have kept the gremlin back. Loose day. Loose day. I'd rather they kill the gremlin than anything else. Okay, no idea what their instant was, but it was not good enough. And it is 4-0 heading into game number 5. Here we are for game 5 against the Poop Basket. Need to draw some lands here, but if so, the hand is excellent with that Entity Tracker into Meat Locker into Fear of Falling. So flash this in during their end step on turn 3, Meat Locker down their creature on turn 4, helping us make sure we draw all the lands on curve to play the Fear of Falling turn 5. Drawing another card. Ooh, nice, and I even get some Flood Pits Drowner value here. Do I? Would I rather Drowner than Cheerleader? Yes, I would. We're going to play it kind of defensive here. Just go for full Entity Tracker value. I guess I actually should have drowned Norin instead of their 2-drop creature. Alright, whatever. I took 2 extra points of damage. It is what it is. I instinctually was like, this has flash, so we wait for the more expensive creature and stun that. But it's like, well, what happens if they don't have a 2-drop? Well, this happens, and that's a little awkward. We took 2 extra damage for no reason. Because they didn't have a 2-drop anyway. There's another creature. Just a 2/2 Manifester. Stun that with a Meat Locker next turn to draw my card towards Fear of Falling, land 5. I don't hate trading Drowner into it, but ooh. Yeah, this is maybe a little greedy, but as I said before, I really don't hate trading Drowner into the 2/2. The Entity Tracker can't die here. And this is going to get us to a point where if they don't have removal for Tracker, we get insane Eerie value next turn, drawing the Gremlin Tamer as well. And now their only other creature on board can't block, so if they spend all their mana killing Entity Tracker, we are winning the race with 4 damage on the crackback. Things still play decently for us even if they do kill Entity Tracker. And they don't, just a conductive machete that we can stun with a Meat Locker. Absolutely wonderful. Although I drew land 5. Land 5 slightly makes me want to just play Fear of Falling here, but that would mean no attacks this turn, and I kind of think I just keep the tempo on, because that's going to give Cheerleader flying and everything else. And if I draw into any 2-drop in the deck, it'll be castable. We've got one of each color. Whee! Alright, did not draw into anything relevant, but this still feels like so much damage and such good tempo that it's perfectly fine, even if it's less mana efficient than casting the flyer. Because that stun means they have no blockers on board for another 2 turns. Norn can't block, and the face down can't block for the next few turns. That swing, this swing, and then the swing the turn after this. Tap stun 2 is actually quite a long time. It's 3 attacks. Well, there's the beat down for the tracker. Is this double removal? You. Alright, get it double removaled. Trade my 1/1 into a 2/1. I think that's fine. Oh. That's less fine. Turns into a 2/2 that can actually block now. But all of my threats have flying at this point, so... actually still can't block. Draws are super bad, but we've still got action. As long as I don't miss next turn, and even if I do, I can just use the Drown Diner. Oof. 4 damage on the 4/4 flyer. Still got a Cheerleader doing its best to race. 1 card left in their hand. Alright, we're still racing. Drown Diner time. Alright, well, there's one spell. That's gross. The machete manifested a fear of being hunted that just forces bad blocks because it has a machete on it. What a wombo combo. Oh my god, and their other manifests a 5/4. Just gonna lose this race to Severe Flood. And that's it. That's the game. Wow. It's like 6 or 7 lands out of the 7 or 8 draws we had recently. That's what it is. Almost any spell in our deck would win this race for us. That is devastating. Now we have to chump the fear of being hunted and go to 4. I should have played a land there technically, but the game's over from these draws. It's a single blocker. It's too little too late. Block that, take 5. That is game. Just a devastating land clump in the end. Steals it away from us, and we are 4-1 heading into game 6. Alright, here we are on the play. For game 6, we've got Drowner into Cold Healer, the Fear of Isolation to pick up the Drowner and do it again. Looks like a solid start. Blue-white mirror match. Ooh, there's the Glimmer Seeker. Definitely want to help that get through, either with Flood Pit's Drowner, but we have the jump scare as well, and I think I just gotta curve out here on the play. Even if I don't get the ETB effect, it's worth jamming here. Kind of madman's running counterspells in blue-white. Well, generally fine, but in this format, I don't expect it as much, as it is one of the more aggressive color pairs. That tunnel surveyor is real annoying for the droner. Just drop a 3/3. Ooh, that's a yikes. Work by toughness only works by power. Oh boy. Thing's just gonna sit there and go wild if it sticks around. Really good with the tunnel surveyor. Yeah, I'm just not allowed to attack ever at this point. We're just vibing. If I attack in, they just like jump with surveyor, then attack with the savior. Get it back. I guess I could try to jump scare on blocks, but that's a really bad idea because your opponent gets to attack in with 5 mana up, all their instants in hand at the ready. Do need land 4, so playing this to surveil towards it would be fine. Okay, those are kind of exciting here. I've got a lot of rooms and I can replay them and re-unlock them. I think I'm going to get rid of the grasp, but not the tamer. Yeah, again, if I send in right now, they can just like double block Cold Healer with 2/2/2s, and I'd have to blow my jump scare so that the savior would not be able to get jump scared, and it just comes at me and gets them back anyway. Goes insane. This tunnel surveyor savior combo is too good. We have to just sit here and stare at our opponent for now, which is why I think a card like Gremlin Tamer that can set up to do a lot over the course of a long game is a pretty good draw, even if I would like mana right now. So much for Gremlin Tamer. Can exercise their trapped in the screen, actually. Kind of keep forgetting I can do that. That Glimmer Seeker is also an absolute must kill. If it ever attacks. Draws them a card every turn. I guess I just block with Cold Healer. We rip the combat trick out of their hand. Yeah, Ward 2. So we're good there. I guess if they attack with Glimmer Seeker and Savior of the Small, then if I kill Glimmer Seeker, they bring it back with Savior of the Small. And if I don't kill Glimmer Seeker, they draw a card. Oh, there's just a lot of survival nonsense right now. We kill the Savior, and then they do get to draw a Glimmer Seeker card, but now we can actually kill the Glimmer Seeker later. Possessed Goat. Hello, 4/4. Sure. And a creepy peepee. Okay. Now we have infinite 1/1s. Right? Infinite 1/1s. Can't really double spell. I guess I can Elegant Rotunda holding up Jump Scare here. Slightly thicker blockers. Block the Goat with a 3/2 and a 1/1, and then I can single block Glimmer Seeker with a Cheerleader. Actually feels decent. Yeah, since I can't play 2 1-drops right now because I want to use both halves of the Grand Entryway before I Fear of Isolation. If I do this, then next turn, even if I miss on a land, I can unlock the Grand Entryway and then Fear of Isolation it back. And I've used both halves. Gotten maximum value. Okay. Take a chunk of damage for doing this, though, don't I? It's 5 damage. Still at 8. Now their board kind of sucks. Emerge from the cocoon on the Savior. Try to use that to bring stuff back, and I can't meat locker it down or it's going to bring stuff back that way. So it is better to do the Fear of Isolation nonsense. Just have infinite blockers instead. And just block Savior of the Small with our entire board, pretty much. Alright. No more 1/1s from Gremlin Tamer, but it has done plenty of work for us at this point. Feeling pretty ahead here with 2 rooms in hand. It's a lot of action. Kill whatever you want. Cool. Another one. Another one. Okay. Play Aquarium and Entryway. Sure. Hello, my friend. Missing out on a little card draw, but I still have 3 rooms worth of card draw, so I'm going to be mana efficient there. Oh no! They have no enchantments in grave? That's wild. Whenever an enchantment enters, they get a 3/1 white spirit with flying. Aight. That's not good. So I can stun it, but if they draw any enchantments, it's still going to be awful for me. Three 1 flyer every time. There they go, runner, runner, baby. 2 5-drop flyers in a row off the top. Pretty nasty. 7 mana, I can play Fear of Surveillance and unlock the Drowned Diner here. God, I need more flyers because they just shut off the Fear of Isolation when they attack with the Fear of Falling. I kind of want to hold up Glimmerburst to kill the 3/1 then. But the only way to hold up Glimmerburst is to only do like 3 mana worth of stuff right now. So does that Elegant Rotunda? Guess it's Elegant Rotunda here. One mana off. God, I guess I should have just Fear of Surveillance if I was going to hit a 5-drop. It shuts off the flying until your next turn. My god. Yeah, we're just removal or bust. This Fear of Falling is going to kill us. And then the Ghostly Dancers are going to untap, and we're not going to have flying blockers for it. Oh. That was a real good sequence of draws. Don't hit me with the three-peat. Why are you still reading? That's just a basic land, right? That's just a basic land, right? Please? I beg you. Oh, this is a 1/1 non-flyer. Oh, that's right. I guess it didn't even matter. Jesus Christ, we're so dead. Yeah, no, unless I can kill Fear of Falling right now, and even then... I got 3 mana. So the other flyers get there. Wow, yeah, no, we really didn't stand a chance. Shoot. I guess I needed to drown Diner last turn, but we'll see if it even mattered. No, it did not. No, it did not. Alright, well. Opponent hit us with the Wombo combo in the end. I'm pretty happy with how I navigated the early turns of that game. Everything leading up to the point where they were drawing blind off the top was pretty great. And then they hit Ghostly Dancer into Fear of Falling, so we're dead. 4-2 it is, heading into game number 7. Here we are for game 7 with a mono blue hand and 3 white spells. That is not keepable. This 6-card hand is... it's really good if we can keep some of these cards on board. Either the Gremlin Tamer or the Entity Tracker sticking around. It's going to be a huge deal. I think we actually get rid of Unnerving Grasp. Maybe we get rid of Fear of Surveillance, right? Because we're just going to play Tamer turn 2 anyway. Tamer turn 2, Tracker turn 3, then start playing 3-drops, which are more impactful. But the Fear of Surveillance would trigger both of these if we play it turn 3, so it would maybe be even better than the Grasp anyway. Yeah. Plus, Fear of Surveillance gives us the backup plan, right? Where if I don't draw land 3 by turn 3, I can play both of these in a row. So I immediately draw land 3, and that backup plan is unnecessary. Well, there goes Gremlin Tamer. Woo! Get out there, Meat Shield. Protect my Entity Tracker. Yay! You just grab the Gremlin Tamer and just fling her right into the bear trap. It's okay, she's got a twin. Mono black, so they have the Meat Hook Massacre. And we're gonna have a bad time. But at least we get to go pretty wild this turn. Until they Meat Hook Massacre us. Oh! Maybe they're out mono black and they are just not having fun right now, because that was a fast concession. Alright, 5-2. That means we're in the money now, so whatever happens from here, it is all Gucci. Just some more gravy on the potatoes if we get any more gems. We're at 1,600 gems and 4 packs, and it only cost us 1,500 to play. So we're just leaving the store with a big wad of booster packs in hand and 100 extra gems. Feels pretty nice. We are now 5-2 heading into game number 8. Alright, game number 8. We don't have any creatures to play early, but the Underwater Tunnel does give us a little bit of action here. Setting up our draws at the very least. Okay, throwing them straight in the trash. I could keep them if I really want to hit Locker Room, but I would rather hit creatures immediately. Okay, there's a Meat Locker. I'll just take one. I'm not going to bounce a 1/1 haste. They could easily just slam out on me again. Uh-oh, Boros aggro in a slow hand where we don't play creatures till turn 3. Yeah, that's not good. That's really not good. I do have the mana to play Cheerleader and Bottomless Pool in the same turn, which is pretty sick. I'm going to go for the Cult Healer, though, because then if they have the cheap removal like a Scorching Dragonfire, we don't mind that much if Cult Healer dies, but if it doesn't die, then we can get a lot of life back from it. Yeah. If it does die, then that means that Glimmer Seeker is more likely to actually survive and help us get back in this game. Unnerving Grasp is pretty excellent here. I don't think there's much of an argument to play anything else. Yeah, we kind of have to just do that. Does not matter. Because we don't have Graveyard Recursion. Technically, I think we should always put our spells onto the board, because then if we hit another Unnerving Grasp, I could bounce my own face down or something. Oh, they have the +3/+0 Manifest Dread trick. Just take one a turn for a while. That trick's gonna be so awful for me no matter what I do. Yeah, I guess even if they have the trick, we kind of just block there, right? Because what else am I gonna do? Just block something else later and still get caught? Yeah, it sucks. Boros aggro seems pretty good. At least Arabella only triggers when she attacks, so I could meat locker her. Could also cheerleader bottomless pool. It's probably the safest. And then I can block both the creatures. They can only use the trick on one of them. Although they could Glimmerlight one of them. Okay, that is super fine. Maybe they didn't even have a trick the whole time. Okay, no, they definitely did. So now they just use the trick on the 1/1. That's fine. Yeah. Alright, it was really obvious they had the trick. Like, we figured it out last turn, but the problem is, like, the trick's just so powerful when you're in an aggressive position, it doesn't matter if your opponent knows it or not. Like, what are they going to do? You're just going to eat your blocker and get a 2/2 anyway. Can't stop that. Goodbye, Arabella. Take 3 now. Oh no. Many creatures. God, that's so many creatures. Yeah. If I stun one, they just move the Glimmerlight to another one anyway. All I can do is stop one attacker, and I guess the better way to do that is Glimmer Seeker, because then they attack with everybody and I permanently kill one of the 2/2s. So that's better than Meat Locker here, in theory. Not against Norn, it ain't, because now I don't kill any of the attackers. They just replay it anyway. I guess I can block the Manifested card here. And if it's a land, this is pretty good. If it's a spell, we're dead. Haunted Escort. Oh, they could have just flipped that on the board. I don't know why they chose to exile it. I guess if they exile it, then it's untapped. Yeah, no, that is better. It is better. Now it's untapped. Alright, get got by aggro. Pretty simple game there. The only thing that really could have went better is we could have just surveilled and kept the lands, because we ended up drawing like a bunch of 5-drop stuff like Drowned Niner and Fear of Falling. But even then, this was just way too much. I think we were dead, however we played that. Boros aggro doing Boros aggro stuff. Not a super winnable matchup. And 5-3 is the final record. Pretty solid record. Definitely great to leave the event with more gems than we paid in. I would have liked to see a little bit of a better record for this deck. I think this is a real good blue-white build. And I think our first 2 losses were not really indicative of the power level of this deck. I think our first 2 losses were really just like some flood for the most part. We did lose to some of the biggest weaknesses of this deck, which is the lack of removal. Lost to the big bomb rare and to the big giant flyer because we couldn't hit exercise or trapped in the screen or stay hidden, stay silent. Because I think we'd already played one of these that game and then we just didn't draw the other 2. So that is the kind of the biggest weakness of this deck, is that it's low on just hard removal for like must-kill threats, like that 3/5 flyer that spits out a 3/1 flyer every time you play an enchantment. So we did get got by our biggest weakness in the matchup, but they also just like top decked into that and another card 2 in a row when we were like in a pretty good stable position. So it was also just some rough variance there. And the first loss as well, I mean, we like activated a meat locker, found a 2/2 in lands, and then top decked the land in the last turn, stuff like that. Some bad land clumps for those first two losses. That third loss, that one, I don't think was really any like super bad luck from us. It was just a really good curve from our opponent. Obviously, it would have played better if I didn't surveil the lands away, but there's always the variance of like, well, what if I keep those lands and then there's just still more lands under, like the first two losses that we had. I think the surveil play was reasonable. We just hit, the 1/5-drop creature in our deck, as well as one of our 5-drop drown diners. So, yeah. And again, even if we had kept the lands, I think our opponent's start was just very good there. A very strong Boros aggro deck. So 5-3, again, a little lower than I would have liked to see for this deck, but still an excellent record overall. Nothing to scoff at whatsoever. We leave in this event with 1,600 gems and 4 packs of Duskmourn House of Horror. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.